Picture a child's bedroom floor, a landscape of scattered plastic wonders. The undisputed king is Tyrannosaurus rex, its serrated teeth perpetually frozen in a silent roar. Nearby, the three-horned tank Triceratops stands its ground, while the gentle plate-backed Stegosaurus grazes on an imaginary fern. These are the icons, the titans of prehistory, the stars of museums and blockbuster films that have captured our collective imagination for generations. They represent the ultimate age of monsters. But what if I told you they were late to the party? What if, long before the first T-Rex ever hunted, an entirely different and arguably stranger dynasty of monsters ruled the Earth? This is a journey back further than you might expect, past the Jurassic, beyond even the Triassic. We are going to the Permian period, a chapter of Earth's history so alien and so violently concluded that it makes the age of dinosaurs seem almost familiar. This is not a story about dinosaurs, for they did not yet exist. It is the story of their predecessors, a forgotten kingdom of creatures that walked a bizarre evolutionary line between reptile and mammal. They were the planet's first global superstars, the original supermonsters who rose to dominance on a single massive supercontinent and whose fall was so absolute it cleared the stage for the dinosaurs to be born. Forget what you know about the ancient world. We are about to pull back the curtain on a primordial drama, to resurrect a world ruled by saber-toothed beasts, armored herbivores, and sailback giants that owned the Earth for 60 million years. Let's begin our tour of this lost world with its most famous and most misunderstood resident. If you've ever seen a collection of plastic dinosaurs that includes a creature with a massive fan-like sail on its back, you've met Dimetrodon. For decades, it has been lumped in with its more famous successors. But here lies the first great secret of the Permian. Dimetrodon was not a dinosaur, not even close. In fact, it's more closely related to you than it is to any T-Rex or Triceratops. Dimetrodon belonged to a group of animals called synapsids. To understand their importance, you only need to look at a skull. All synapsids, from this ancient creature to a modern lion to you and me, share a key feature, a single opening in the skull behind each eye socket. This feature, which allowed for stronger jaw muscles, marked the divergence of our ancestors from the lineage that would eventually produce reptiles and dinosaurs. So when you look at Dimetrodon, with its sprawling reptilian posture and enormous, skin-covered sala structure likely used for regulating body temperature or for display, you are looking at a very early branch of your own family tree. It was a proto-mammal, an experiment in evolution that walked the Earth 40 million years before the first dinosaurs. These creatures inhabited a world unlike our own. Nearly all the planet's land was fused into one immense supercontinent called Pangaea. The interior of this landmass was a vast, punishing desert of extreme temperatures, while the coastal regions were draped in swamps and strange forests. There were no flowers to scent the air, no grasses to form prairies. Instead, giant horsetails grew like bamboo, colossal ferns formed the undergrowth, and primitive, cone-bearing trees reached for a sky that had never been seen by a bird. But Dimetrodon, for all its fame, was an early Permian predator. As time marched on, the synapsid rulers grew larger, faster, and far more terrifying. By the late Permian, the true apex predators had emerged, and they were the stuff of nightmares. They were the gorgonopsids. Imagine a creature that combines the worst aspects of a wolf and a crocodile. Ranging from the size of a large dog to that of a grizzly bear, the gorgonopsids were built for killing. They had powerful, upright legs, positioning their bodies more directly over their feet than their sprawling ancestors, allowing for greater speed and agility. But their most horrifying feature was their head. Their jaws, capable of opening unnervingly wide, were armed with a pair of enormous dagger-like canine teeth, the first true saber teeth in Earth's history. They were not reptiles, they were not yet mammals, they were something in between, and they were the undisputed masters of their domain. A world populated by such fearsome predators necessitates an equal and opposite reaction from their prey. Nature, after all, is a relentless arms race, and the herbivores of the Permian had to evolve incredible defenses to survive. They did not disappoint. Roaming the harsh Pangaean landscape were creatures like Scutosaurus. The name means shield lizard, and it was aptly chosen. This was not an animal, it was a living fortress. Weighing well over a ton, Scutosaurus was a plesiosaur, a group of stocky, barrel-bodied plant eaters whose entire evolutionary strategy was to be too tough to kill. Its skin was embedded with bony plates called osteoderms, creating a suit of natural chainmail. Its skull was thick, knobby, and adorned with bony spikes and flanges, making its head a formidable weapon in its own right. A herd of these lumbering tanks, munching on the tough Permian vegetation, would have been a daunting sight for even the most determined gorgonopsid. The world of the late Permian was a dynamic, balanced ecosystem of these heavily armed herbivores and the saber-toothed synapsids that hunted them. This intricate dance of life and death had gone on for millions of years, a stable and successful dynasty. But this dynasty was about to face a threat that came not from fang or claw, but from deep within the earth itself. It would trigger the most profound catastrophe in the history of complex life. An event so devastating it has been given a chillingly simple name, the Great Dying. It began in what is now Siberia. A plume of magma from the planet's mantle surged upwards, burning through the crust and unleashing a series of volcanic eruptions on a scale almost impossible to comprehend. This wasn't a single volcanic cone, it was a vast volcanic province, the Siberian Traps, which, over the course of perhaps 1,000,000 years, would spew enough lava to cover an area the size of Western Europe several miles deep. The immediate eruptions were only the beginning. The volcanoes pumped catastrophic amounts of carbon dioxide, methane, and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. The skies darkened, choking out sunlight and killing the vast Permian forests. The sulfur combined with atmospheric water to fall as corrosive acid rain, poisoning the land and the water. The immense release of greenhouse gases then triggered a runaway global warming event, causing planetary temperatures to skyrocket. The oceans, absorbing the heat and carbon dioxide, warmed, acidified, and lost their oxygen, turning vast swathes of the sea into stagnant, toxic dead zones. This wasn't a sudden impact like the asteroid that would later kill the dinosaurs. This was a slow, agonizing planetary murder. A global suffocation that would bring the 60-million-year reign of the Permian supermonsters to a smoldering, gasping end. The scale of the devastation wrought by the Great Dying is staggering. It remains the closest our planet has ever come to a complete sterilization of complex life. While the asteroid impact that ended the Cretaceous period was dramatic, it wiped out an estimated 75% of species. The Permian-Triassic extinction event was far more thorough. It annihilated an estimated 95% of all marine species and over 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species. The mighty gorgonopsids, with their saber teeth, vanished completely. The armored fortresses like Scutosaurus were erased. The entire complex ecosystem that had been built over millions of years was gone, leaving a ghost world in its wake. The early Triassic period, which followed this apocalypse, was an eerie, empty place. For millions of years, the planet was a low-diversity wasteland, dominated by fungal blooms feeding on the global rot of dead forests. But life is resilient. In the ashes of the Old World, a few hardy survivors clung on. Among them was a most unlikely champion, Lystrosaurus. This synapsid, a distant cousin of the gorgonopsids, was no monster. It was a pig-sized, beaked herbivore with 2 stumpy tusks. It was, by all accounts, unremarkable. Yet it possessed the perfect toolkit for survival. It was a prodigious burrower, allowing it to escape the worst of the toxic atmosphere and scorching temperatures underground. Its simple, non-specialized diet of tough roots and stems meant it could find food where others starved. In the aftermath of the extinction, Lystrosaurus exploded across the empty globe, becoming by far the most common land vertebrate on the planet. For a brief period, it is estimated that this one creature made up as much as 90% of all land animal life. The dominance of Lystrosaurus was a symptom of a broken world, but it was temporary. The Great Dying had performed a great reset. By wiping out the dominant synapsids that had ruled the Permian, it created a massive ecological vacuum. The stage was empty, and a new group of actors was waiting in the wings. This group was the archosaurs, the ruling reptiles, whose ranks included the ancestors of crocodiles, pterosaurs, and a new, upright walking lineage that was fast, agile, and adaptable. For millions of years in the early Triassic, these proto-dinosaurs competed with the few surviving synapsid lines. But the archosaurs had an edge in the hot, arid world that followed the extinction. They were better at conserving water and coping with the heat. Slowly, generation by generation, they diversified, grew larger, and outcompeted their rivals. From the ashes of the Permian world, from the shadow of the Great Dying, a new dynasty was being forged. One branch of these archosaurs would eventually give rise to the most successful and iconic group of animals the Earth has ever known, the dinosaurs. Our journey back to the world before dinosaurs is now complete. We have walked the single continent of Pangaea, not in the shadow of T-Rex, but of the sail-backed Dimetrodon and the saber-toothed Gorgonopsids. We've seen a world ruled by a bizarre and forgotten dynasty of proto-mammals, only to witness that world choke and burn in the greatest extinction event of all time. We saw how this planetary catastrophe, the Great Dying, cleared the stage, creating the perfect, empty world for a new group of rulers to emerge from the rubble. The reign of the dinosaurs was not inevitable. It was a consequence of chance and cataclysm. Their epic 150 million year story could only begin because another, even longer story had come to such a horrifically abrupt end. The forgotten world of the Permian offers us a profound lesson. It reminds us that the story of life on Earth is not a simple, linear march of progress leading inexorably to us. It is a chaotic, unpredictable epic of boom and bust, of dazzling innovation and devastating collapse. Dominance is always temporary. The mightiest empires, whether of nations or of species, can be brought to their knees by forces they cannot control. The Permian monsters are a ghostly echo from a deep past, a testament to life's incredible creativity and its terrifying fragility. They are a reminder that the world we know is built upon the ruins of countless worlds that came before. And as we contemplate our own place on this planet, their story prompts a final, humbling question. What forgotten kingdoms are we walking on top of right now? And what future dynasties will one day rise from our own ashes?